Welcome back. Today we're talking about business financing, specifically using a U.S. Small Business Administration loan or an SBA loan through a local bank to obtain financing for your business. My name is Thomas Rockwood, and if you have any questions whatsoever about SBA financing or would like more information about getting access to capital for your business, please feel free to reach out to me directly at any time at thomas@LifeForth.com. Specifically today, what I wanted to talk about was some advantages and disadvantages of using an SBA loan for the solution of funding your business. Whether it's a business acquisition, you're trying to get capital for an existing business, or there's a specific transaction you're trying to pull off, such as purchasing real estate or expanding your location, buying equipment, buying inventory, any of those things. Ultimately, I think that there are three reasons why businesses choose an SBA loan over conventional lending or alternative finance. And I think that comes down to cash injection or the equity requirements that are involved, the term of the loan, how long you have to repay back that loan, and then the types of transactions you're trying to pull off, whether it's buying a business, starting a new business, purchasing real estate, buying equipment or inventory, or just needing working capital. All of those things will have different appetites at different banks. So one of the first things I think it's important to look at is the loan request that you're trying to do for your business, is it eligible with the SBA? And then after you get to a yes, okay, this is SBA eligible, then it comes down to, is this something that the bank wants to do? Do they have the appetite to actually fund that type of transaction or that industry, or given these factors of your cash injection and the term you're looking for, is that something that they're interested in doing? So once you're in that space and you're saying, okay, I have an eligible request, now it comes down to appetite, then I think you're really looking at different banks as a solution as opposed to eligibility and looking at it from the SBA side. So advantages specifically, why would you want to look at an SBA loan? There are advantages and disadvantages to every type of financing. And so we'll start with what would really benefit your business. And I think that typically comes into the amount of cash you have to put into a transaction. For example, if you're trying to buy or start a business, typically, a bank's going to want to see cash injection. There might not be specific regulation or direction from the SBA in the SOP that says you have to have this specific cash injection amount. And in that case, you're really dealing with bank appetite. I don't see a lot of 100% financing anymore. So, a good rule of thumb is if you start with 20% or so of the project to inject, then I think you're heading in the right direction. If you have less than that, 15, 10%, you might lose a few banks' appetite, but I still think it's an eligible request depending on the type of business and what you're trying to do. So, cash injection requirements are really going to be bank by bank, and that's going to be something that you're going to want to look at and assess as you're looking at your lender. The other thing to really consider is the term of the loan. In a business acquisition scenario, the SBA will allow for a 10-year term. If you're trying to buy real estate, you can extend up to 25 years. Those are typically beyond what I would say the normal conventional loan would allow or an alternative financing would allow. So the term of the loan is really a key component, because that's going to spread your payments out over that much period of time and allow for the lowest possible payments on a month-by-month basis for your business. Either you're starting up or you're expanding in that direction. So the terms of the loan, I think, are a key advantage. And if, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're involving real estate or heavy equipment that has a long life, a useful life, you can get 20, 25-year financing options. And there's different loan programs that you can participate in. The third main advantage of using an SBA loan is really going to be the types of transactions you're able to do. A lot of conventional lending, they want to have tangible assets. If you can't touch it, it's probably not going to be financeable. So, a lot of conventional lending is around equipment, around real estate, and they might do some lines of credit around your receivables. But in the case of a business acquisition, if you're buying a business and you're a new owner in that business, that might be a very tough transaction to find a lender to do conventionally. Alternative financing might not be an option because you don't have a historical track record. So the SBA loan is a great tool to make that business acquisition And really it provides the bank the incentive to say yes to this transaction, and help this buyer make this acquisition and get this ball going for this company. Franchise startups are also a tough one to pull off, simply because you don't have historical revenues. So a franchise that's eligible with the SBA is a good option to use an SBA loan to fund that startup cost. There's a lot of startups that don't have franchises. There's specific regulation. You're going to want to talk to someone about your specific business that you're trying to start up. But I think that's a great example of also a type of transaction that falls outside of the conventional financing option and outside of the alternative financing, and falls well within the SBA. So again, when you're looking at SBA loans, some advantages are always going to be the amount of cash you can put in is going to be probably lower than that of alternative or conventional financing. You can probably get longer terms, which is going to get you a lower monthly payment, and the types of deals you're trying to put together. If you're trying to do a lot of different things, such as you're starting a business that's going to need equipment, real estate, and working capital, plus you're going to need inventory. All of those things are eligible to be financed with an SBA loan. So depending on what you're trying to do or how broad you need your financing to cover, SBA loans have a good reach. So there's a lot of talk about the disadvantages of an SBA loan. We've gone through some of the advantages. I think commonly what I hear is that either there's too much paperwork, or it takes too long, or it's too heavy on the fees. And I guess to address some of those, I think a lot of it has to do with, as you start your process with an SBA lender at a bank, I think your experience is going to be heavily dictated by who you're working with, the experience of that lender and of that bank doing SBA lending. Working with the right lender up front is going to help you set your expectations. It's going to map out the timeline it's going to take to pull off your specific transaction. And I think that's going to be probably the most satisfying piece of you and for your experience going through the SBA loan process. There are checks and balances, and there's a process to an SBA loan. It doesn't matter which bank you go through. We all have to go through the exact same regulation and the exact same process for the most part. So, talking with your banker up front and understanding what that is going to be, having that expectation set and laid out for you is going to make your experience much more pleasurable. The fees are the fees. I don't think it varies too much bank to bank. In most cases, I think most lenders come in at about the same cost. The main advantage I see is going with an SBA loan to cover those fees. A lot of conventional loans, they don't cover the closing costs. They don't cover the environmental, the appraisal, the closing attorney, any of those other pieces. So SBA loan proceeds can cover that. The SBA also has programs. So if you are a business and you are a 51% veteran-owned business or more, so if you've been a service veteran, there's fee reductions currently in place. And at the time of your loan application, you're going to want to talk to your lender about what those are. But on some loans, they waive the fee entirely. So, for the service you've put into our country, the SBA tries to at least reduce those fees where we can and help you get your business up and running and off the ground. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Take a look at the rest of the videos when you get a chance. If there's a specific topic that you'd like me to cover, please let me know. Again, my name is Thomas Rockwood, and you can reach me directly at thomas@LifeForth.com. Next time, we'll be talking about some of these topics more in depth. So check out some of those videos, look at the other videos on the website, and hopefully this helps get you in the right direction in terms of getting your business financed.